fellow bookworms to Timber's Den. My name is Whitney, and we are reading Stormfront by Jim Butcher. We just finished chapters 6 through 10, so those are the chapters we are discussing today. As always, if you aren't quite to that point, don't hesitate to jump off this video and come back once you are all caught up. We are discussing these characters and these chapters, and so there is a certain level of spoilers, and plus it just makes it easier for you to participate in the discussion questions if you know what's going on. And of course, if you haven't started reading it yet, don't hesitate to pick it up. There are links where you can find it in the description below, and you can participate at any point in time, so you can read it and then follow along these videos as you read each set of chapters. But let's go ahead and jump right into the discussion questions with chapter 6. Harry discounts the film canister, but takes note of the lack of trash. Why does he take notice of one clue versus another? And I think with the film canister, it wasn't an obvious clue because it wasn't something he was looking for, but at the same time, it wasn't unexpected to see it there. It is a lake house, and so people probably take pictures when they're there, and then you have debris from the lake that probably washes up and things like that. So it wasn't really an unexpected object, but it also, wasn't something that should have been there. But either way, it didn't raise a red flag because it was random, but not so random that I was like, what is this doing here, And then with the trash, he expected there to be trash, so the lack of trash kind of showed, that there was a red flag because there was nothing in the trash can, like they were clean. And he expected if there's somebody that was staying there, there'd be trash. And then again, he was looking for trash to see if somebody was staying there, but to have no trash at all was a little bit odd, and that's what raised the red flag for sure. So I think it's just, the different types of what he was expecting to find and what he found, and what, that's kind of what caused him to register one as a clue and not the other, even though they are both definitely clues. So Harry paints quite the picture of fairies. What are your thoughts on how fairies are portrayed here? And I definitely get more like leprechaun vibes from the description, even though, leprechauns are a type of fairy. They're kind of a specific type. And when you think fairies, you don't necessarily think leprechauns. And fairies can be portrayed in different ways. You have like bright fairies, and then you have like darker versions of fairies and things like that. And so I think they can be portrayed in different ways, but just the way he leaned in the lore, it gave me definite leprechaun vibes. And even leprechauns can be portrayed different ways, but more, the mischief makers, kind of gluttons, things like that was kind of what I was getting from his description and everything. And so I think, that's kind of the way he took it. But I did enjoy his description, and I kind of enjoy how fairies are, in his reality there. The only thing I didn't really agree with was he kind of lumped Santa Claus in there, and Santa Claus to me is an elf, and I view elves and fairies as different things, even though there are some similarities, and I'm not, an expert by any means on any of the lore, or anything like that, so I'm not even sure if there is a tie there or not. But to me, elves and fairies are different, and Santa Claus is an elf, not a fairy. So that's kind of my thought on it, but you'll have to let me know what you think down below for sure. So that's it for chapter 6. Let's go ahead and move on to chapter 7. Harry loses his temper a bit with Morgan. Are you impressed with the level of restraint he showed, or do you think he should have shown more? And I think his level of restraint when it was official business, when Morgan was acting on behalf of the White Council, was definitely impressive. Like, I thought he did a really good job of kind of reining himself in, and, he kept, bringing up the technicalities, but that's what was going to get him through. And so he did a good job keeping his cool and kind of reining himself in. But he did kind of lack restraint, once the official business was over and Morgan was kind of acting on his own behalf. I think, I don't think he should have fueled the fire anymore, because even though business and what he was doing was separate, it still definitely adds to that flame for the official business. and just makes him more motivated to find something. And at the same time, though, I'm not like I was rooting for him. Like I was glad he did it because he's definitely not somebody that's gonna just be walked all over. He definitely stands up for himself when it's appropriate, and he knows he can get away with it. Even though he kind of was like, I probably shouldn't have done that because it does add fuel to the fire, like I said. But that's it for that question. Harry was already on thin ice with the White Council. Do you think he is a suspect in the murders more because of his past or their dislike for him? And I think it's more their dislike. Like his past definitely plays a part in it, but I don't think it's so much like his past making them think he did it. More that, the ones that don't agree with the trial and everything and how he got off for his past. Um, I think those ones are kind of using his past against him and just trying to find something they can pin on him. So I think it's more they just don't like him and they're trying to find something than being kind of looking at it objectively, and like yeah, take his past into account. But I don't think they're being so objective about it for sure. So that's it for chapter 7. Let's go ahead and move on to chapter 8. If you had the choice between a computer/library or Bob the Skull for getting information, which would you choose? And I think Bob the Skull is really, really entertaining. I really enjoy him, but personally, I would not want to utilize him at all. Like, I would prefer just to kind of go get my information and not have to deal with him. I think for people that maybe want more interaction and such, that would be a good choice. But for me, I prefer to work alone anyway, and having something that kind of has their own agenda and is trying to use, things to coerce you into doing something that they want you to do. I wouldn't be okay with that. So I would definitely just prefer to use the computers or the library, even though it'd be really cool to have, a being that could bring up knowledge for you, when you needed it. So I wouldn't be happy with that. Like it would rub me the wrong way for sure. So let's see here. Harry seems resistant but not overly concerned with creating a love potion. Are you surprised the White Council doesn't seem to have stricter rules on love potions? And I am a little bit surprised, especially, with the stance Morgan took and like the laws he was citing as far as entrapment and then using somebody's name against them. I think in supernatural like fiction and lore and such, like love potions are either seen as kind of trivial things or they're absolutely forbidden. And I think, just based on how the White Council is portrayed so far and everything, I would expect them to have like a harder stand on love potions because you just don't meddle with people's emotions like that. But I don't think they do. Like it doesn't say outright, but I don't think they do because Harry, like yes, he's more morally concerned about creating it, but he knows he won't use it. Than he is overly concerned that the White Council is going to find out he made a love potion. And so I think they probably don't have a hard stand on that, which, like I said, based on what we know about them so far, kind of surprises me for sure. So, next up is chapter 9. Harry manages to gain a tentative amount of control in his interaction with Bianca. What are your thoughts on how the situation played out? And this was probably my favorite part of the book so far, my favorite scene. Like, I think it was really, really well written. And I think it definitely, like it kind of threw me off when she reacted. And then I was, kind of holding my breath and, right there with Harry, wondering what was going to happen and whether he was going to be able to maintain control and get out of there alive. And I just think the description of everything was so well written. And I do like how it played out. Like, I think out of all the characters so far, that interaction with Bianca kind of gave us the most information, just on what Harry was dealing with. I think it gave us kind of the a glimpse into the vampires and such. And so kind of just gave us a better idea of what he was dealing with, and I thought it was really well written as well. So that's just kind of my thoughts on it. At this point, Harry seems to have all the powerhouses of the city gunning for him. Why does he have such a knack of rubbing those in power the wrong way? And I think part of it, he works really hard to make sure he doesn't show fear, but he also doesn't back down. So even though he is fearful, he makes sure he doesn't show it, but he's not going to back down regardless. And I think he has a certain level of power as well, and they probably fear that to a certain extent. Especially the ones who think he might have done the murders, the White Council and Bianca. Like, I think they kind of fear his power as well, because he certainly does have it in his own right. And so I think that's why they kind of rub him the wrong way. There's a certain level of power there, but also he doesn't back down. Like, he doesn't let them just kowtow him and walk all over him or anything like that. Like, he's gonna stand his ground when appropriate, for sure. So that's it for chapter 9. Let's go ahead and move on to chapter 10. The chapter starts with a conversation with Linda Randall and ends with Harry being threatened. Even if he wanted to, could Harry step back from the investigation at this point? And at this point, I don't think there's any stepping back from it. Like, he's too involved. One, he has a lot of pressure from the police. He's contracted to them and they want answers. And then two, he's a suspect, on multiple fronts. Bianca thinks he's a suspect, and he's already kind of pissed her off. And so he's on her radar, and then the White Council thinks he's a suspect. So at this point, he kind of has a personal investment in it. And I think even, Johnny Marcone wants him to step back and not, investigate. And I think even if he did that, he's still on their radar. And there's nothing saying that they might not think he has something to do with it in the future. So he has a lot at stake at this point. And so there's really no getting out of it. Like, he needs to prove his innocence and figure out what happens for sure. So even though on the surface the Victor Sells case seems basic enough, it seems to go deeper than it appears. Is it possible that his case is tied to the other case Harry is working on? And I think it is possible. Like, I'm trying to figure this out, and I don't know how much is niggling at me because I have read it before, even though I don't remember. Like, I'm sure there's something in my subconscious, going like, hey, like, there's something here. But I think there might be a tie based on two reasons, to the murders. And that's one, because the pizza guy, kind of described, and the fairy too, described like a sporting, it's kind of a love fest there. And I think that makes me think of ties to Bianca. And two, this one, probably doesn't have much ground, but it made me think of it, is, Morgan shows up when Harry is at the lake house, and that's when he brings up, thinking Harry did the murders and everything like that. And so that just kind of makes me think, like, there's a tie-in, like, why did he show up at that specific location? I mean, I know he's following Harry, and so, like I said, that one's kind of not very a stable assumption there, because he is following Harry, and so, he followed him to the lake house and things like that, and then he approaches him because of his interaction with the fairy. But it still just kind of makes me think like there's something more to the Victor Sells case than what we're seeing, even though on the surface, it started off like maybe magic has something to do with it, and then it looked like just a husband having an affair and running around on his wife. But I think there's something deeper there, and like I said, I don't know how much of it is my subconscious because I have read the book before, and how much of it is like something's actually there. So it'll definitely be interesting to see going forward what happens with the Victor Sells case and how it all ties in together. I'm really interested to see that. But that is it for today's discussion. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And remember to check back if you're not already. Please do subscribe and hit the bell notification so you are notified when I do upload, because sometime this week I will be revealing our book of the month for next month, for September, and I'm really excited to do that. So make sure you check back and you have the notifications on. You're subscribed so you are notified when I put that out, because I think it's an author that a lot of you will really like. So, but anyway, that is it for today. I hope you guys are enjoying this book so far. We are going to be reading chapters 11 through 15 next week, or this week, and then discussing that next Monday. But yeah, happy reading, everyone. Bye.